Dan is going to claim that he can debunk the evidence against evolution.
That's one of his videos. His 4 best arguments against evolution. And you know I love the hit back against an anti-evolution video.
Is that Dan? Why, when somebody does an anti-evolution video and shows scientific facts that your theory is retarded, why do you always feel like you have to hit back? Why don't you just admit, maybe they're right? You do really good on flat earthers. Just stay on that topic, Dan. You're just wrong about this evolution. There is no evidence that any animal has ever changed to a different kind of animal. Give it up. It's not true. It's a fairy tale. Oh, hey, just imagine. Oh, here, somebody made me, look at this. Evolution only exists in your imagination.
Imagination.
You have too much fun over there, Joseph. Okay, let's see. So here's Dan. Let's go ahead, Dan. Tell us about it.
So that's exactly what we're going to do. Hello all and welcome along to another episode of Tinfoil Tuesday with me, SciMan Dan.
Why do you call yourself SciMan Dan? There's nothing scientific about evolution. It's a religion. That's why we put the Pope hat on him. Where's that Pope hat, Joseph? There we go. If Dan says it, got to be true. He's speaking ex cathedra now. Yeah, a la commode or something. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, I'm sorry, Dan. Go ahead.
Thanks very much for joining me. Right, back to Frank Turek then, and his issues with another book, The Origin of Species. He apparently has 4 of the best arguments against evolution, and I'm wondering how many of these I would have heard of before. Probably a few. Let's get stuck into this one, shall we?
I think macroevolution is...
Why did you put Frank Turek in a black and white old TV? Is this a subtle, sneaky way to, say, well, his theories are outdated, old-fashioned? Why would you do that? The show wasn't in black and white on the TV, Dan. You know that. It's got little stuff like that. Got to get their little jab in. Anyway, go ahead.
Faults on the merits, not because the Bible... Leave the Bible out of it for a minute. When you look at the evidence for macroevolution, I not only think the evidence is weak for macroevolution, there's very strong evidence against it.
Is there though? Because many people say that and then fall short. Let's see, shall we?
You said you believe in an old Earth,
yeah.
And that the Bible doesn't really prescribe a certain age of the Earth. So I would just want to know how you kind of knit together the idea of like old Earth, the Genesis account, perhaps even evolution. Is there a historical Adam, whatnot?
Of course I believe in a historical Adam, and I think God created Adam out of the dust, just like it says. It makes a lot more sense than natural laws did it, right?
Actually, Frank, no. Claiming a fully formed human was sculpted from dust does not make more sense than natural processes.
Dan, stop and think what you're saying. I could say a car is made of all natural elements, iron, aluminum, copper for the wiring. A car is made of natural elements right out of the earth. That doesn't mean it can make itself. To have God take dust of the ground and make a man is very different than saying the dust made a man by itself without a designer. You guys don't get it yet. You will Judgment Day, okay? So no, there's no comparison. Your theory is really, really stupid. The dust made man by itself. In your theory, no guy, no designer, no God.
Because natural laws don't just do it by magic. Evolution explains how small changes over time produces complex life.
If your theory explains how this works, how did life get started, Dan? How do you go from non-living material to living, something alive? By the way, where did matter come from? Where did the dust and the dirt and all the matter come from? From a big bang where a dot of nothing exploded? I showed Mr. Nelson many times. He never responded. R and Ra. He said, nobody believes we came from a rock. And I showed 20 times where they do teach we came from a rock. The earth was a hot ball of rock. It cooled down, got rained down. The soup came alive. And yeah, we came from a rock. I don't want to show all that again here tonight, but you do believe you came from a rock. Why don't you just admit it and be proud of it and stop driving on your ancestors? Gee whiz, they don't get it. Okay, let's see.
Frank wants to keep the earth old because that evidence is undeniable.
The evidence is undeniable that the earth is open. Dan, you just slap and run. Stop and think. There's lots of evidence the earth cannot be billions of years old. I use the illustration. If I took a Bic ink pen and said this pen is 5,000 years old, you could easily prove me wrong by 3 simple things. You could say it's a ballpoint. Ballpoints were invented in 1888. Just that one fact proves it's not 5,000 years old. Yeah, you could say it's made of plastic, and plastics weren't invented until 1907. Another fact that proves it's not 5,000 years old. You could say it's made by Bic Corporation. Bic wasn't a corporation until 1946. Those three simple facts prove my claim of 5,000 years is wrong. And there are all kinds of scientific facts that prove your claim is wrong about the Earth being billions of years old. Get my videotape number, get the whole series for $50, Creation Seminar Series. Go to video number 1, The Age of the Earth. Different ways to prove the Earth is not billions of years old. You do need way more than billions. No amount of time is going to help. Time makes it worse. Things get worse with time, not better. Time's your enemy, but you think it's your savior. So anyway, Dan, you got a halfway house. Okay.
Still reject evolution. So he invents this halfway house where he can accept geology but deny biology.
Halfway house, he accepts geology but denies biology. Dan, I accept both. I taught earth science 15 years. I'll have you attest on geology anytime you want, okay? All the geologic evidence proves that there was a worldwide flood. And you want to claim that all these layers that we see in the earth are different ages. Dan, why don't you guys ever answer my question? All you atheists together, get together, have a symposium. You're saying the top layer, the Holocene, is only 10,000 years old, right? But let's pick one here. Jurassic is 145 million years old. So where was all the Holocene dirt hanging out for 144,900,000 years? Where was it? Did it come from outer space? How can that dirt be a different age than that dirt? Why don't they ever answer it, Joseph? It's something somebody made up 200 years ago, and you fell for it. Shame on you. Stop and think. Don't let somebody else do your thinking for you. How can the dirt layers be different ages? They all formed in one big flood. All over the world, petrified trees are found standing up, connecting all of them. They're not different age. They can't be. Every speck of dirt in the universe is the same age. Whether 6,000 or 6 trillion, it's all the same age. They don't get it. See, they want so badly for there not to be a God, and I know why. Because if you accept the idea of God, then you might have to accept the idea of, thus saith the Lord, thou shalt not. You don't like that, do you? Yeah, it's some of the thou shalt nots that you don't like. That's why you reject this and why you accept the dumb idea that you're related to a potato and you came from a rock, which came from a dot of nothing. Dumb.
Biology.
So yes, God created Adam out of the dust. When that happened, I don't know.
With Frank on that, the Bible teaches about 6,000 years ago. That's pretty clear. And Jesus said the creation of Adam was the beginning. Frank's heading up a cruise next summer of 27. Several people have asked, are you going on the cruise? I said, well, I'll go if I get to speak once or twice, but no, I'm reaching 14 million people a month sitting here. So we sent a letter to Frank, if you'd like me to come on as one of the guests. I don't want any money for it. I just want to get the gospel out to more people. So I think he's wrong about that. Otherwise, he preaches great stuff, okay?
What was the other part of the question?
How does creation and evolution play into the Genesis account?
Well, first of all, I think macroevolution is false on the merits, not because the Bible. Leave the Bible out of it for a minute. When you look at the evidence for
Dan, this is the same scene you showed at the beginning with your black and white TV. So we know it's just done in color. I just wonder, maybe it's unintentional. Maybe it's done for, I don't know what the effect is. This is an old-fashioned theory, right? You got the new modern science, don't you, Dan?
Macroevolution, I not only think the evidence is weak for macroevolution, there's very strong evidence against it. Okay?
So macroevolution is about significant evolutionary changes that happen over long periods of time.
Imagination, Dan. We don't see it. Nobody has ever seen a cow produce a non-cow. You guys have these charts that you want all of us to pay to put in the public school textbooks that says everything is related. Dan, I don't know if you realize this or not, but they cut down trees to make the paper to print this garbage and put in the textbooks. You could save a lot of trees. You could save the planet by getting the evolution out of the textbooks. Yeah. I don't get it. You guys don't. I'm sorry. Wait, let's see. Evolutionary changes that happen over long periods of time. This is why it's imagination. It's not science.
Think of the difference between saying dogs can evolve different coat colours, microevolution, to dogs and bears share a common ancestor.
Dogs and bears? Dan, you believe dogs and grasshoppers have a common ancestor. Dogs and bears would have a lot more in common than dogs and grasshoppers. Dan, do you believe these charts should be paid for by all the taxpayers and put in all the textbooks that says humans are related to hippopotamus? I've seen a few. Might be, but never mind. Okay. Humans are related to, let's see, sunflowers and octopus. You believe this is what they're teaching? This is not science. This is a propaganda poster. That's all it is. And if you wish to believe it, that's fine. But don't call it science. Adding time is not going to help. Let's see. Okay, put him back up there, brother. Evolution of dogs to bears. Let's get one that shows the stupidity a little more, Dan. Dogs and grasshoppers. Dan, do you believe you are related to a grasshopper? Just yes or no? He does. So, Dan, dogs and bears have a lot of differences. If you think they're related, that's, yay, believe what you want. It's your religion. It's not science.
Ancestor from millions of years ago.
An ancestor from millions of years ago. There you go again. You just proved it goes outside of science. Science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. How on earth can you observe millions of years? How can we test that?
Macroevolution. Now, every major field of biology supports macroevolution.
That's quite a bold statement. Every major field of biology supports macroevolution. You are dreaming. Or you're smoking some kind of stuff over there. I don't know what you do in England, okay?
Fossil records,
Dan, there's no such thing as a fossil record. There are fossils by the trillions, if you want to count, microscopic stuff. Here we have a trilobite fossil. When you find a fossil in the ground, all you really know is it died. You can't prove it had any children, can you? Can you prove it had children that were different than itself? No. You can't prove it had any children at all. If you find a fossil fish, here we go, or some petrified clams in the closed position, they don't talk. None of the fossils, we have thousands in our museum, none of the fossils talk. None of them have a date stamped on them. You're putting your interpretation on the fossil. Oh, fish, you died 272 million years ago. Oh, poor fish, yeah. Fins extended like it's trying to get its last breath in the muddy water through the gills. All right. So, Dan, I'm sorry. You are mistaken. Be a kind way to say it. So, fossil record is not counting for evolution. When you find fossils in the ground, all you know is it died. If you found a fossil that looked halfway between two living things today, that doesn't prove it is between those two. It just might be something that went extinct. And comparative anatomy.
Embryo.
I can't believe you're still talking comparative anatomy. Different animals, like they usually use the forelimb of the whale and the forelimb of the bat and the human, etc. We have two bones in the wrist, the radius and the ulna, the carpals, the metacarpals, the phalanges. Yes, I agree. There are similarities. That's proof of a common designer. It's a design that works pretty good. Yeah. Whales have to move their flippers around to swim through the water and dart around, Yeah, it works pretty good. Bats have to do a lot of maneuvering. They all use those bones. Doesn't prove a common ancestor. How can you not see it? And then he says, embryology. Dan, you're either really stupid or really lying. The embryology idea was proven wrong in 1874. Dan, that's 150 years ago. Stop using embryology as evidence for evolution. It's not. Why do you keep saying that? Try to impress your naive listening audience? Oh, wow, we got a bunch of evidence. Yeah. No, there isn't. Stop using embryology.
And most of all, genetics.
Most of all, genetics. The DNA code, the genetics of every animal, is more complex than the space shuttle. More complex than the whole internet system of the world. It's from one person. If one person's DNA was extracted from every one of their cells and stretched out and tied together, it would go across the solar system twice. Dan, you think all that code happened by chance. You're welcome to believe that, but quit calling it science. Quit calling yourself SciMan Dan, and if you're going to keep using embryology, we're going to call you Lieman Dan, because you are lying. Call me for a debate. I ain't afraid. Please do.
Literally map the family tree of life in our DNA.
You can map the family tree of life in our DNA. Just because there are similarities in DNA, Dan, does not prove one's related to another. Maybe the same designer wrote the code. I could point to all 4,000 books in my library and say they all use the same 26 letters of the alphabet. That proves nobody wrote any of these books. See how dumb that is? This DNA code might have similarities. You know, I bet the DNA code to tell your body to flex the flexors, relax the extenders, to pull down the fingers to pick up a coffee cup. The motions to do that, to turn the fingers in, keep it balanced, the motion, I bet it requires millions of lines of code in the DNA to make your body be able to do that. I bet chimpanzees have those same lines of code because they have to do the same thing. They have to grab things. It doesn't prove a common relationship. It proves a common designer. Microsoft PowerPoint, Microsoft Word have millions of identical lines of code because the same guys are writing the code. Dan, think about it. Now, Joseph, when I go to Microsoft Word and type a document, I can enlarge the font by clicking buttons, right? When I do the same in PowerPoint, I can enlarge the font. Interesting. I can change the font, from Arial to Gaudi Sans Medium, which I use on all my slides. In both of them. That proves nobody wrote that code. You don't get it. DNA is not evidence for evolution. It's evidence for common designer. The DNA code is really complex. It's a 4-bit code instead of our primitive 2-bit code, zeros and ones that all we use here, right?
That's not weak evidence, Frank.
It is not evidence at all, Dan. You said that's not weak evidence. You're dreaming. And thank you for making such an easy target, Dan. I've had a long day, and this is wonderful. This is so easy to pick. I love it. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate it. Come visit Dinosaur Adventureland. We'll treat you like royalty. Okay?
Really isn't.
I'll just give you a few real quickly with the acronym LIFE, L-I-F-E. L stands for the fact that there's a limited capacity for change. Like, for example, dog breeders try and breed dogs, right? And they get a dog as small as a Chihuahua and as large as a Great Dane. But even with all their intelligence, they can't break the genus of dogs. Why do we think a non-intelligent process can break that genus?
Question. And Dan, he's right. There are limits to the change. There are now 450 breeds of cows, and there are limits to the change. They're still cow, recognizable as cow, okay? But you think cows and bananas are related, don't you? That's why I've said for years, you guys do not admit there's a limit. Thank you, Frank. That's excellent. Pointed out. But Dan's not going to believe it. He can't have limits, or he can't have his evolution religion.
Can break those limits. Doesn't make any sense, right?
The old dogs stay dogs argument.
The old dogs stay dogs argument is legitimate. Do you know an example where it didn't happen? How many dogs do you think have been born in the last 500 years where people could observe it and keep records? Whole bunch. Has anybody ever seen a dog produce a non-dog? Dan, show me your evidence. Or else admit you don't have any. The old dogs produce dogs. It's true. And cows produce cows and chickens produce chickens. There are 500 now breeds of chickens. Probably had a common ancestor called a chicken. If you wish to believe, other than that, use your imagination. You got it there, Joseph? Let's see. I like this new poster here. Where'd it go? Here we go. Okay.
Imagination.
That's all you have, Dan. All you have. There's no science to show a dog has ever produced a non-dog or come from a non-dog. No science for it at all. It's imagination.
Dog breeding doesn't disprove evolution, it actually proves it. Chihuahuas and Great Danes look like they belong on different planets.
Chihuahuas and Great Danes are still technically interfertile. You said DNA is evidence for evolution. They've got very similar DNA. Did you know that? Chihuahuas and Great Danes have the same DNA that dogs have. You know why? They're dogs. That's barely for the Chihuahua, but they're still dogs, okay?
Yet, they're still genetically compatible. We've observed massive...
Right. Theoretically, they could produce a puppy. Chihuahua can't reach. It might be frustrating, but they could figure out a way to do it, okay?
Massive variation over a single species in just a few thousand years through our selective breeding. And that's a great example of how much change can occur in a relatively small amount of time. Now,
right. The change from a Great Dane to a Chihuahua has occurred in a relatively small amount of time. I agree. I had a dog breeder family tell me they've been in the dog kennel business for 100 years, 3 generations. They said, look, you give us 20 generic mutts, or I forget what they said, 25 generic dogs, pick any dogs. We will selectively breed them and in 100 years create a Chihuahua and a Great Dane again, and all the kind in between in 100 years. It's still a dog. But you want to imagine if we went long enough, it turned to a bird or a mosquito or a whale. You think they're related, don't you? This is where I don't care that you guys believe this. I do care that you want me to pay to have that stupidity taught to all the kids like it's part of science. It's not part of science. It's a religion.
Imagine scaling that up over millions of years and...
He did it. He said it, Joseph. Imagine millions of years. We've observed dogs produce dogs, quite a variety. I think 153 varieties now of dogs. We've observed that. Just imagine as proof they're related to tomatoes. Yeah. That's what you believe, don't you, Dan? Dogs and tomatoes have a common ancestor? Yeah.
Countless generations. Those small incremental changes accumulate. That's
relate to change to something else, but it's not science. See, Dan, I don't even know what science is. You call yourself SciMan Dan. Science is what we can observe, study, test, and demonstrate. It comes from the Latin word "ser," to know. What do we know? We know dogs produce dogs. We do not know that dogs and tomatoes have a common ancestor. You can believe that. It's part of your religion. It's not part of science. Small incremental changes. What Frank said is right. There are limits. Remember the first letter L? Limits. There are limits. It's always a dog. You get too far away from the generic dog, something's going to go wrong. They've got dogs as small as a toy cup Chihuahua. Dan, do you think you'll ever get a dog as small as a flea? Did you know there are animals as small as a flea? Like a flea? They seem to have babies just fine, don't they? But do you believe they'll ever get a dog that small? How about, do you think you'll ever get a dog as big as an elephant? There are animals as big as an elephant, even bigger. There are limits to the dog changes. Frank is right. Go get him, Frank. Okay, let's see.
exactly how you get what we call macroevolution.
That's right. You get it by imagination. That's exactly right, Dan. Thank you. Go back and watch your own video here.
There is no invisible barrier at all.
There's no barrier? All of observable science says there is some kind of barrier. We don't get dogs bigger than a Great Dane or whatever the biggest one they've got now is. Is there one bigger than that? Mastiff or something? Get one as big as Texas. If there's no limit, Dan, come on. Let's get a dog as big as Texas. And you can pay to feed it, okay?
Stopping a population diverging far enough to become a different species.
This is where you imagine it happening, Dan. It's not ever observed. No farmer in the history of the world will tell you whether he's raising animals or plants. Will tell you they've been able to produce something other than the same kind. You plant corn, you get corn. You raise pigs, you get pigs. Without exception.
So if selective breeding that we do with dogs in a few thousand years can stretch a species from a Chihuahua to a Great Dane, then given enough time, these changes can accumulate absolutely to the point where a new genus forms.
See? Show me one, Dan. Show me where this happens. Because science is what we can observe, study, and demonstrate. Demonstrate it. You can't. Because you have a religion. But you can't admit that. Because then you can't get tax funding to have your religion taught in the schools, can you?
The I stands for irreducible complexity. And Michael Behe introduced this back in 1996 with his book, Darwin's Black Box, where he points out that there are so many aspects of living things that you can't build gradually, that they're irreducibly complex, that all the pieces and all the parts have to be in place in working order to have any function at all. You can't get there gradually. Like you can't get, Richard Dawkins talked about, well, maybe our eyes were developed through some sort of gradual process where we had at first sort of light-sensitive cells, and then they eventually evolved into an eye. What Dawkins doesn't seem to realize is that light-sensitive cells are irreducibly complex themselves, and that to get to an eye, light-sensitive cells aren't a prerequisite to an eye. And you'd have to have vision the whole way through with all the parts there at the same time. So it doesn't work.
The thing is, every time scientists have looked at these so-called irreducibly complex systems, they've found perfectly good evolutionary pathways for them.
They arranged different creatures in order from simple eye to complex eye and assumed that that's how it happened. It's never observed to happen that way. to go from a light-sensitive spot to a spot with a lens or a spot that can detect direction from the light or something like that. It's true. There are lots of different kinds of eyes in the world, lots of them. You guys claim the trilobite. I'll show you here. Here, way down here in the trilobites, in the Cambrian, the first layer at the bottom of your chart, the trilobite. Well, Dan, I've got a whole bunch of trilobites in my fossil collection. Did you know the trilobite has one of the most complex eyes ever found? 10,000 lenses on one eyeball, each of them with a nerve going to the brain. How the little trilobite figures all that, what all them messages mean at once, I don't know. But the trilobite is not a simple animal. It has probably the most complex eye ever. And it's down at the bottom of your chart, Dan. Think about it. Google the tower-eyed trilobite. Yeah, eye sticks up like this to bury himself in the mud and still see what's going on around him. It's design. What an easy target, Dan. Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
Frank says you can't get an eye gradually, but we've
Frank says you can't get an eye gradually. Okay, but watch this now. But Dan says, but we've
literally observed intermediate stages in nature.
We've observed intermediate
Some
stages.
animals have nothing.
Let me translate that for you. We arranged a bunch of creatures in order to make it look like it happened that way. It doesn't prove it happened that way, Dan. How can you not see that? I wonder if you have to have our help to win the war over there. Gee, okay.
Nothing more than light-sensitive patches. No lens, no retina, just cells that can distinguish between light and dark. Others have simple cut-shaped eyes, giving a sense of direction of the light. Then
you see what he's doing? He's arranging creatures in order that he has no evidence that they're related. And like they did with the horse evolution, you go from different number of ribs. You know, two-toed horse, the three-toed horse, the four-toed horse. The fact that you can arrange some animals in order is not evidence that it happened that way. It's evidence that you believe it might have happened. Line up those same animals that you have with the different eye types, and then look at the other differences between them. Do they have the DNA increase incrementally the same way, Dan? Did the DNA code do it? Did the rest of the body structures do it? Do some have shells? Do some live in the water? And some live in the air? And some live in the dirt? You guys, arrange them in order. Send me that list, Dan, of how you think the eye evolved. Now you're only looking at the eye. Just look at the rest of the body. It should all be the same. Think about it.
there's pinhole eyes, lens-shaped eyes, compound eyes. It's a spectrum, not an on-off switch. And
it is a spectrum. You are right. And it's amazing. The Creator made each of these animals. They could live in the world that they have what they need to do what they do. That's amazing.
here's the thing, each step provides a survival advantage. Even a tiny ability to detect shadow or light is better than nothing at all. Natural selection builds on that advantage.
And some creatures live at the bottom of the ocean where that's all they need to do because there ain't much light down there. They just need to detect a little bit of light. Wouldn't do any good to have color vision. There ain't no color down there. Not proof it evolved.
Little by little. That is not irreducible complexity.
The F stands for the fact that the fossil record does not comport with macroevolution. It comports with instantaneous creation because according to their dating, the Cambrian explosion, where most major body phyla or body plans appear, they appear in the geological record about 530 million years ago in a geological instant. It looks more like creation rather than this long series of gradual fossils that we should find if macroevolution were true.
Frank calling something a geological instant doesn't mean it happened overnight. In geological terms, the Cambrian explosion happened over 20 million years.
Okay, Dan, you're claiming the Cambrian explosion. Cambrian, down at the bottom here. Look at that. Cambrian. Very first one. The Cambrian explosion. All these body types and life forms appeared at once in 20 million years. That includes the trilobite. So let's just take that one, Dan. Would you please explain to me why the trilobite has the most complex eye already ever found in nature? That's down at the bottom of your chart. And some of the ones you have up later in the chart, Dan, don't have as complex of an eye, do they? What happened? Did they lose things? You guys, in your mind, evolution only goes one way. It keeps improving and improving. When reality shows us, it would go backwards. Everything gets worse. How many of you have discovered as you get older, things quit working? Okay, it used to, yeah. Okay, that's enough for tonight. Thank you. Easy target. I'll take you. By the way, call 855-BIG-DINO, extension 4. Joseph, book him for a debate. I've been asking for years. Dan, I know what the problem is. You ready, Joseph? Yeah. You should be afraid, Dan. You should be very afraid. Yeah.